And I've always been ashamed that I wanna fall into a drink with my honor desecrated, blood jaded. I've never found a way to be honest. All I know is a place where I hunt and memories fade.
You gotta speak to him in his own language.
This is like that one week where we had, what do we have? We had, jelly or jam? No, cream cheese pop into the chat. We're like, who's this cream cheese person? And then we got into a long, drawn-out thing about is cream cheese actual cheese and how does it work? But anyway, what's going on, everyone?
I don't think I was there for that.
You were
All
not.
right, run it, Wookie.
Well, what's going on, everybody? I am the one, the only, the W-O-O-K-I-E. We're one misfit short of a Happy Meal, but we got one back, so does that make us complete and whole again? I'm not sure, but we'll find out today. We got one and only the Big Z.
Hey, time for another week of Altered Corner.
We got Cole.
Hello, my aloe brethren.
We got Zach.
How's it going?
And finally, he came out of his closet, put his moon boots away. We got Dexter. Hello. Do you know what moon boots are, Dexter?
No, I have no idea what those are.
We'll have to wait till Ogre can explain it to him.
Yeah. Boy, are you in for a treat. But going through, we're going to start out with Unique of the Week. This Unique of the Week brought to you by, I feel like this should be a sponsored segment, no?
I don't know. Maybe.
Maybe.
It's sponsored by Equity.
Find a sponsor.
We make all the cards.
Sponsored by. We'll find a sponsor for Unique of the Week, but this week's Unique is a Unique Shenlong. I wonder if I can. I'm going to try to put these pictures somewhere. I don't know if we could put these in the show notes or somewhere to put them. I'm going to assume maybe we can make a section on Altered Corner for the Unique
definitely
of the Week.
put them up on our new Patreon sites that we're going to have soon.
That we could do. We could put the Unique of the Week up there, kind of, and maybe you guys could share some of your uniques with us. Get some thoughts and opinions. But he is a character, Dragon Deity. 5 from hand, 5 from reserve, 6/5/5. I have Tough 1. When I gain 1 or more boosts, if you control 1 or more landmarks, draw a card. And then his quick action is the next character you play this turn, gain 1 boost.
We've seen it before. Drawing is so important in this game.
Draw
It's
good.
So big.
Draw real
good.
I have figured out in my short time here, I don't even think I have enough games to put into. I think I'm like 1 or 2 games shy of being able to change my avatar.
Yeah, so 18 games. Good
Something
job,
like that.
Wookie.
I mean, hey,
I played 10 after I just preparing for the segment today.
maybe I will gain that privilege once as we are going through this show. You never know.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's interesting.
If you and Sheep can do it for years, I can do it for one show.
I did not play Keyforge while doing Archons Corner. I watched Dan play Keyforge while watching Archons Corner.
Well, if Dan,
I might be watching games.
If Dan can do it, I can do it. Maybe. We'll see.
He also just grumped once every 10 minutes and didn't say
We had to poke him every now and again to make sure he was still breathing. So let's get the noob's perspective.
Definitely not in the middle of a game right now.
Yeah, definitely not.
Definitely not.
So do we want the noob's perspective of this?
Shouldn't you introduce our new little cast member that has finally showed up?
This is his first time.
Dexter? This is my first time on the cast.
Yeah.
I just introduced him.
It wasn't really much of an introduction, though.
Yeah, and then I asked him if he knew what Moon Boots was. Dexter will be here. Dexter is in charge of the Why I Suck at Altered. Is that why they're poking fun at you? You're the noob?
I mean, I am the noob. I do suck at Altered the most, probably.
No, Wookie was referring to himself.
I was referring to me. I am the noob
player.
Yeah, so Wookie, what's your perspective of this card, since you are the least gamified Altered person?
So the first thing that stands out to me now, I don't know what the normal Shenlong is. I forget right off the top of my nugget. I haven't memorized every card of the
He's just real big. Real big, lots of mana.
He's real big, but he's expensive. Right?
Yeah.
And I know through my Magic time that real big and expensive don't always mean real good. Now, what
That
I've
is
been
accurate more than ever.
what I have been told is Bravos is the green of Altered, so they have a little ramp, right? They're able to get
Yep.
some. Oh, there they are. They're able to get a little bit of little bit more mana orbs into play quicker.
Mhm.
Why? What are we doing here? Why are we moving things? I can't see them.
I wasn't moving anything.
Zach,
I was.
stop it.
No, I brought them in. Z is moving them, so it doesn't
Oh.
take away anything else.
So, and I am told that boost for Bravos is also a very common thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, my next question then becomes, well, I've spent all my mana orbs. Like, where am I getting this extra boost from? And after playing Fen, that it doesn't seem like that might be really an issue. So you're going to be drawing some cards, and if you have your landmarks out. That seems pretty. I mean, card draw is
Yeah.
really, 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 really important. Like card draw and reserves. I have never played a game where card draw is so.
Yeah.
It's so scarce
Stifled.
and so
It's
important.
so stifled. Yeah.
Right. Like,
Well,
like
and it's
if,
it's game winningly good in a lot of cases, which
it's
is gonna
almost
come up
like
in my segment today.
you
for
could
sure.
have a very bad card, and if it says draw a card,
It's immediately much
it's
much
almost
much better.
a must run, right?
Yeah.
So, and for gaining boost and drawing cards, it seems pretty good. The quick action, maybe not. I'm not the quick action.
Yeah, I
gaining
don't
one
think I
boost
ever
doesn't-
fire
No.
this. You never fire that
Yeah.
here.
Yeah,
it
it
actually
doesn't-
gives you a really good. I'm not going to talk about it much this in my Bravo segment today, but there's a common one drop in Bravos that has a quick action itself that says the next character you just discard it from reserve, and the next character you play gains a boost, which means for even at 5, it would then come in boosted from the Assoon, and you would immediately draw a card.
And then if you had a Bastion, you would get another boost. And
Yep.
if you had the hero that you
The
can tap to
Basira,
get another boost, you're
this
getting
would-
another
this-
boost. So that's just
yeah.
drawing 3 cards.
Oh,
on
I
play
didn't
right
even.
there.
I didn't
Yep.
even realize it's every single time it's getting.
Yep,
boosted.
every
Every
single
time.
time you
Wow.
boost this.
Wow.
And like Helping Hand is a 1-drop from hand as a spell,
Yep.
2 from reserve. Like there's a lot of ways in Bravos to trigger this guy.
Oh no, absolutely.
And it would be if you got 3 uniques like this. We're talking about like uniques, and if it exists on this one card, that means it exists in other iterations on other Shenlongs, obviously, and other cards as well. So you could chase 3 uniques like this, run 3 of them in your deck, and go all out Basira. That'd be a very, very strong use case to run Basira immediately.
Yeah,
'Cause
I
you're
would
gonna-
love
you're
to
gonna draw a
have this
ton
in
of
my
cards.
demon deck.
Yeah, it's just
It
fantastic.
does seem late in the game, no?
5
bit
can be
late.
turned 3.
Turn 3 for
Three,
Bravos?
yeah.
That
It
quick?
could be
Yeah.
turn 2.
Okay.
Everyone hits 5 turn 3. Bravos can hit it
2,
on turn
It could
2.
hit it turn 2.
1, 2,
Yeah, with
3.
with Tiny Jin. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Now
Oh,
thinking
but then
about
if
it.
yeah, but if it is turn 2, they're not going to be able to get a boost.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
you're
you
not
never
going to
know.
want to do it. Like, you're going to want this to be your turn 4, turn 5, turn 6 play to set up for the kill on turn 7 or 8 or 9. Like, this it's a setup card.
Yeah.
And it's also a big body.
I was going to say
toughness.
big stats.
Yeah. There's a lot of options here, and like I said, like the big part about it is if you have one of, it's a weird slot because you're probably still not running Basir at that point. But if you have 3 cards like this guy, you're definitely going Basira, and you're going to have like Izmir level draw power in your deck.
And draw
Yeah.
good. I've learned
Yeah,
that is
draws
the one
real,
thing
real,
I've
real,
learned
real good.
ever so quickly.
Tough is also very, very good to have, especially in the current meta.
Even one because of how big mana is.
So
No, I like that. It's a good card.
I was gonna say it's on the upper end of decent. I've seen better, but I've also seen worse.
Oh, as far as Bravos goes, this is a beast.
Very
Okay.
good for Bravos.
This is gold tier Bravos.
Okay.
I know we talked a lot about other cards, and them they were Ordis, and we spoiled our audience a little bit with some of the Ordis standard. But standards for other houses is quite a bit lower.
You've said before that Bravos is always hurting on the card, having cards in hand and stuff, and the fact that this gives you draw every single time it gets a boost, like you're going to be sitting on a lot of cards eventually.
And cards give you options, and options give you a path to victory.
100%.
That's what I've always been taught. So, that's the unique of the week with your noob, Wookie.
Thanks, Wookie.
Not a problem. Let's move on to why I suck at Altered. Dexter?
Yeah, so, I mean, I suck at Altered for a lot of reasons, but one game that I played a bit ago, a Waru versus an Aphanis deck, I had the option to sabotage either a Helping Hand or a Mage Dancer, and I chose to sabotage their Helping Hand, and then they just kept playing that Mage Dancer with other Helping Hands and getting a whole bunch of boosts, and they just overwhelmed me with characters. So, I mean, that was a mistake for multiple reasons, but one big thing with Aphanis is that it needs characters in order to get its ability to work when you play spells to give dudes boosts. So if I had just sabotaged that character, then he wouldn't have had that character to get as many boosts, and he wouldn't have been as fast. So sometimes, like, looking at your opponent's game plan instead of just specific cards and disrupting their overall game plan is a lot more useful.
Well, and a lot of that's knowing your opposing heroes, and it does help to like play other heroes every once in a while to actually understand that a little bit better. And because I watched that game, and that was my comment to you, right? Like I was like, you should have killed the guy, because I play Aphanis. I played all of the heroes quite a bit, unless they suck. But I have not played them. But like Aphanis is a great hero. He's fantastic. He's fun to play, but like one of the weaknesses that you have to endure as an Aphanis player is that you have to run lots of spells. Aphanis decks have like 19 to 21 spells in them.
Yeah.
Which means you don't actually have that many characters. So if you can strategically control their characters, you can put them in a scenario where they literally can only fight for one lane, if any, because they don't they have their spells, because that is what they have to have. Like they have to have them in their deck in quantity, or they literally can't spell sling without them.
Yep.
Which means they just don't have a lot of characters. So if you have a chance to sabotage and you're looking at a spell or a dude, it doesn't even if that dude is Tooth Fairy and you're looking at 2 mana landing a 1/1/1 and you're like, well, that's not going to do anything anymore. Kill the Tooth Fairy.
Yep.
Because it's going to grow big.
It's not going to be a 1/1/1 by the time they played their 5th Magic training or whatever.
And I mean, it's the same for other decks like Bravos. Like, if you're playing Muna into Bravos, your Rare Daughter, which is normally a great card, is awful against Bravos, just because giving Bravos any card draw is awful. So you want to look at
that could have been a whole different week of sucking it at all.
He's catching up. He's actually got week 1 and week 2 to cover. So he just covered week 2. Can you go back one more and tell us why you suck more? Oh, I almost said it. Oh, that was close.
It's gonna happen to me. I'm the one that started the segment, so
you want a why I suck at Altered moment? Here you go. You ready for this one?
Need 50 of them.
Well, I'll give. Now we got a week 3 moment from the noob, right? And literally, I sat on this podcast, and was it Ogre or was it Cole who gave us the long-winded explanation of why you should, when you have come to the realization that you are not doing anything but paddling upstream but still going backwards, maybe stop and don't do it no more and save your resources for another turn.
Yeah.
And I literally sat here and I listened
Ogre's
to that.
Tug of War.
Yep. I literally sat here and I listened to that and I went, huh. That is
great
actually
segment.
some great advice.
And then you went
and then you're playing in some games, and you have come to the realization, I don't think I can win this.
So you just keep throwing good money after bad,
and then you go, ha, YOLO, and you're like, maybe I can. Because in your head, you're always like, I can totally do this. And then you realize you're playing against Waru, and you're like, hey, no, what? And you look back all of 14 and a half seconds and you go, what did I just do? I knew I was dead to rights on this turn. Why did I continue doing that? So sometimes you have to listen to the other half of your head and go, you're a dumbass. Just sit back and click pass.
Yeah, I feel like I won a match in organized play last night specifically because the person was a little bit newer of a player, and when you're new, you kind of want to do everything and use all your abilities. And they were playing Navenka, which for the more seasoned players will know exactly how you can risk more than you need to, especially if it's not important. And
you got to roll the dice every turn.
yeah, he got really, really lucky most of the time, but it was the one or two times where it didn't work out, where he didn't even need to roll, and it backfired. But it was a good deck, especially for someone who was just their second or third week of playing. It was a really good Navenka deck, but
We'll take your word for it.
well, I mean, you know what deck I play, so
Yeah, I know.
But it was good. He shout out to that random guy in DFW. He put together a good Navenka deck. I liked it.
There's something about risking it for the biscuit where you're like,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, you'll never see me running that hero.
Yeah,
So,
and then it's exhilarating. I don't know, that is a great fun deck. I think you can definitely 100%, like, if you are quote unquote dicking around, that's like, if there was, is there multiplayer in
Technically, yes.
Technically, yes. I don't like that
Yes.
technically yes answer.
You can do 4-player with like some weird X-shaped adventure track, I think.
Because if there ever was like a very uber casual, like, that's the deck to run. Like, I don't know, like, where you could, I don't know, maybe play your cards for your opponent and cast them on theirs, or maybe like the person to your left to screw the person to your right. I don't know.
Yeah, it's usually done more for fun at like conventions and stuff, but there's a 2v2 mode and the rules exist out there. But I mean, referencing, dicking around. This is like balls in the wind because he did not have the permanent that gives you an extra die. So it was one die the entire best of 3. So that's even more risky.
It's the outpost that does that, doesn't it?
Yeah, Lyra Outpost.
It's like buying 20 scratchers a week at the gas station.
Listen, I watch people do it all day, every day.
Same.
I was waiting for Wookie to come back. That's me.
Yeah, when he said listen.
Listen, I work at a pawn store, right? I have watched fortunes won and lost in the matter of a week from gambling. I don't gamble. I actually don't gamble at all. I don't buy scratchers. I don't buy lotto tickets. I don't go to the casino. Like, I don't gamble. But boy howdy, I have watched somebody come into my store, drop 20K in a heartbeat, and then next week need to bring it back because they gave it all back to Potawatomi. And not only are they returning stuff, they're now also pawning their own jewelry so they can get more money to go to Potawatomi, which is our local, I guess, local is a weird term, our casino that's in the area. So,
just sounds fun to say.
Potawatomi, it's the local tribe. So,
okay.
If any of you are wondering, Potawatomi is the local tribe for Milwaukee. So everybody sucks at Altered except for Z, because he's the best.
I suck plenty at Altered, and I'm not
Zach,
the best
because he plays.
I am
Waru.
currently not ranked number 1, so that's all Pluko right now, all the way. I think
is he still number 1? I haven't checked.
It is still Pluko.
Oh, by a long way.
Yeah,
too.
like he's kind of like shot up there a bit.
Last week he was only 8 points ahead. He shot up some more.
Yeah,
he's
like
almost
100 over.
Yeah.
Oh my!
He's at 2001, and the next player is at 1928.
And I'm at 87th.
I'm rooting
So-
for Pluka. I ain't gonna lie to
Yeah,
anybody. I'm rooting for him.
no. Like, yeah, it's like America, then a bunch of not America. So go Pluka, let's go.
I've never met Pluka. I've talked to him once. Rooting for you.
Yeah.
All right, deck
You got a fan club.
construction.
All right, that is me. So we're gonna really get into today. It's gonna be a little bit more of a segment today than last week. So the first thing we're gonna talk about with deck construction is the bones of the deck, and that is gonna be referring to your 21 commons and your 15 rares. So as great as the uniques are, and as impactful as they can be for some houses, factions, like you're still gonna have 36 of your 39 cards that are not gold. So that means it's super important, more than any other game that I've ever played, to identify your common and rare slots that are going to be your staples to build around. And today I did a poll. I left it up for like 4 or 5 hours. It was actually like pretty split. I think we had 12 votes, maybe 11. And it was 3 for Bravos and then 2, and then like no one wanted to talk about Ortis again. So we're going to keep it in theme today. We're going to go Bravos, along with Shenlong earlier. And I'm going to break down the stars. I'm not going to go through what all the cars do. You can look them up. Again, our cast is not centered on like new newbies. We have plenty of people that are different variants of skills, but we're expecting people to kind of know what the cards are initially. I'm just highlighting the stars for the commons and the rares, and then kind of give you a little what I did after I did this analysis. All right, so first for Bravos, you got to know some important things. Here, Wookiee references it being green from the Magic the Gathering analog, comparison. Basically, you're fielding value guys. Like that is what you're doing in Bravos. It doesn't matter which hero you choose. You are trying to win the game by placing larger numbers on your treks versus their tracks the whole time. You're not doing anything else other than fancy. Other than that, and you're generally trying to achieve, I want to push a lane every turn. Sometimes, of course, you want to double push if you can, but you're never wanting to be defensive, where some heroes kind of want to do that sometimes, especially at different intervals of the game. That is not Bravos. You always want to move on a track. So with that in mind, here is what I'm having as the common stars at the common slot. I think I have, how many lists here? I'm going to give you 8. 7 are going to be the ones that I'm using now on the deck that I'll talk about at the end. But my common stars are Bravos. Very basic is a Bravos Pathfinder. He's a 2-drop from both. Puts numbers on the board. Most importantly, he has a water stat at 3, which is often a weakness with Bravos. Then I'm going to Red, another very basic 2-drop. Has Seasoned. It's 2/2/2 for 2. Very solid card in general. Can potentially go wild even at common. Helping Hand. Through the cross of my Bravos journey, I've had it in and out of decks. I now consider it a hard staple in every deck that I run with Bravos. I will have 3. They will always be at common. They will never leave my lineup. Having a 1-drop. Again, I'm leaning towards, I talked about it last week, I'm leaning hard into Kojo. So this is assuming you have Kojo along with the Fire Dog in all cases, as far as me considering these the common stars. There are some use cases for a different hero. Basura is decent if the rares, the uniques like we talked about earlier, you have 3 of them. That's the only time I would ever even consider running Basura right now, because Kojo, you kind of do need bodies on the board because of the way control works in this game, and he helps. The Fire Dog helps with that. And helping, so the Helping Hand is one of the reasons why I have a staple. Every other turn, you always have an extra body there. Control is important. That'll be a whole nother deck constructing thing. So I have Intimidation and Mana Eruption as my common stars. I put 3 of each in every Bravos deck I make. You just have to have Eruption. Most importantly, right now, both of these can hit Robin Hood. That's big. Mana Eruption will kill the damn dragons that Tasia likes to play on you. And then they lose. Just hold it. Like, just as soon as they drop it, pay the 6 if you need to, depending on how many plants they have, and then they just lose. One of the ones that has gone in and out of my rotation until I finally found the value in it is the Bravos Vanguard. He makes people lose fleeting, which helps your cycle, which means your people aren't going away as often. And then the Haven Warrior is my last addition to this Common Stars list. And I'll kind of talk about how I got here at the end. And then I have a dual threat, which is a common and a rare star, and that's Tiny Jin. If you have room for him, I like him at rare because he's a 1-drop there a lot. But he's also really good at the common level because his power goes up, his cost goes up too. But Tiny Jin, in my opinion, all around is just a great card. I would never have a Bravo stick that did not have 3 of them. Whether he's at rare or common really depends on what you're trying to do exactly. But in this current build, he would be the 8th common out, and the others would have 7. It's really important in Bravos more than most decks that I think you do force the hard number of 3s of everything, because getting cards is huge in Bravos. Like, it is very hard to win a game if you get too card starved, and that is very easy to happen to you. So a big part of what the commons are bringing here is the Bravos helps your people not be fleeting. Like their guys not be fleeting. Your helping hand helps them not be fleeting as well. That helps that part of what's going on, and you're going to see more of that in the rares, which is why the rare stars are pretty much all rare stars when we get down to it. On my rare stars side, I have Tiny Jin is there. I love 1-drops on the play. It gives you more options on the first 6 in your hand, and just in general, more things later in the game. Another the rare star I have is Orda Spy. My favorite thing about this is not only is it sabotage, it's good to have some sabotage in every deck, especially against certain heroes like Izmir. The play from the backside, the reserve for Orda Spy, is only 2, which in my opinion makes it way better than the Haven Bouncer, which I don't have. There is an argument to have them in here. And then one of the cards that I've probably gone on a long trail to get here, but because of being so card starved, physical training I run 3 of in all my Bravos decks at rare, because basically you need to conceptualize it, especially because you have the Fire Dog. Every other turn you're always gonna have a dude to start off there because it starts at 2/2/2. So for 3 mana, you can make that dog a 5/5/5 and draw a card, and it's not a fleeting spell, so it goes to your reserve, so you can do that again. Sometimes I've even made the Fire Dog an 8/8/8, and then I call him Clifford. Dexter, you might not get that reference.
I got that reference.
All right, because occasionally you just have a big red dog at 8/8/8, and you've drawn 2 cards. So like that is there. And then I am on the board that I've hard pivoted into. Every red deck should have 3 rare Bravos Bastions. I occasionally see people running the common. Being able to get the resupply trigger, especially on a turn 1, in my cases, on turn 1, I can drop rare Tiny Jin and Haven Bastion. And hey, if you're on the play, you might even have your dog out there. Like, those starting turns accelerate my game so much, especially because of the resupply trigger, because card draw is the most important thing for Bravos by a lot. So being able to have just the 3 extra resupply triggers in your deck somewhere from those Bastions, I think edges it out versus the common slot in every case that I've seen. And then normally my 5th rare staple would have been Mighty Jin, and through this process of crunching the numbers, I have the Saga of the Mighty Jin. I loved that card when I first saw it and played it because it does actually have a draw on there. But in gameplay, I had to get the 5 rares that I have here. Well, I haven't even said the 5th one, but to get the 4 of them that are here already, I had him here, but then I had to cycle him out because I wanted the Axiom Salvager. Because the Salvager is another 1-drop from hand, which is important as just gameplay. Most people will ever understand that having 1-drop creatures from hand is kind of like a big deal right now. Being able to play a 1 mana, have a dude in the field, and then force your opponent to act to it gives you time to set up to what you're actually going to do that lane. And if it's a guy, it's even better. And furthermore, it resupplies from reserve at 2, which another half card draw feeding into your bastions is absolutely huge. So the Salvager pushed my Jin, because he was now my 5th triple rare, to common, which I was using for as a little bit of a mana ramp there. But then the more games I played with this exact build, I started to see that I wasn't actually ramping the Jin. I was actually literally just choosing him for mana, because with the Salvager, with the 3 physical trainings, the 3 Salvagers, the 3 Bastions, and the helping hands to make sure my people weren't fleeting, and furthermore the Vanguards to make sure that my people weren't fleeting when they come back, I was having enough cards, so I didn't actually need the Jin for what its original purpose was. So ultimately, the Haven Warrior edged out the Mighty Jin to be that slot. So from the start of my Bravos experience of Mighty Jin being one of my favorite cards, through all of this, grinding games, he's still a good card. He's just not in my star list any longer. So it's a sad day for the Mighty Jin. Great day for the Tiny Jin. I have them at rare. I think I would probably always try to force that, because it's just really good to have that starting hand that way. Then I'm not going to explain them, but I have a dud list. Bad Bravos cards in most cases, in my opinion. Achilles, Atlas, Haven Trainee, Kua Milan, Kaibara, Shenlong, Sun Wukong the Common. The out of faction bad ones are Aja, Asmodeus. Mind Apotheosis is one of the worst cards in this game. And another super dud only at rare is Mana Channeling. Like, those are 100% really, really bad cards. So when I was done with I know some of the ones in the cast were paying attention to my shenanigans throughout the day. I looked at my own Kojo deck and I was like, well, this doesn't really match this list. So I was like, well, maybe I should tweak it. So I tweaked up exactly the 7 commons and the 5 rares. And I played 10 games of preparation for the show. Everything in one of them was an arena, mostly against elites, and I went 9-1. I was like, hey, I probably could have actually done this process a long time ago. But I did have a pretty good day. My alternate, I think, is now ranked 250, so that's cool. Yeah, that was a lot of me. So what are y'all thinking of some of the things? I know most of y'all have not played Bravos, but thoughts here?
I feel like your deck needs more removal overall.
Bravos
Just
was
like the
really having it.
intimidation, the sabotage, and then the mana eruption doesn't seem like enough. I feel like
Yeah. There are only 9
more
removal
sabotage
cards,
might
for
help.
sure. I just don't like Tanuki or Tooth Fairy. People do tend to run Bouncer, but the value lost to me versus pushing is rough. Yeah, like I in my 10 games, I only think I ran into one Waru. I did win. My only loss was to Turbo, who saw all 3 of their bastions by turn 2. I was a little salty about that. Wasn't very happy.
Yeah, I'll have to double check again, but I made a Basira deck. It does really well early, but then it just can't keep up.
Because it runs out of cards.
Yeah, well, and I'm pretty sure, I'm gonna double check. I don't have any havens.
Well, there. Like, that's
Yep. And I don't have enough mighty gins either. So
that's the
I-
one that eventually phased out for me. And I guess I didn't say this as I go through the card. Haven Bravos Bastion at rare, in my opinion, is the only true superstar card I have out of all of these 12 staples. I would never play Bravos deck without 3 of those at rare.
yeah, and I would like to make a Kojo deck, but I have 0 of the rare.
Yeah. The rare is also coincidentally one of the higher value cards on the market as far as cards go. I don't think it's
Yep.
nearly as much as the one that is in Turbo, the flipped card, because Turbo just doesn't work without that card.
Can
I
add
think
one-
last
can I
people
add
were
one thing
talking
about
it is the
Buddha?
most expensive. The fire dog?
Yeah. Number one, that's a cat.
Yeah, he knows. He knows. We went through that.
We know.
Oh, we went through this already? Yeah, that's definitely a
Mhm.
cat, not a dog.
It is a cheetah.
It's a dog. It's a fire
Welcome to
dog.
last week, Wookie. Good to see you.
we looked up the
I
lore to
heard-
confirm and
I
everything.
heard it last week, and I was like, you know what? I don't remember the art enough to weigh in one way or the other. And I'm sitting here, and I'm like, dude, it's definitely a cat.
If you look at the promo card, it is very clearly a cheetah, but
Yeah,
that has
that's-
not stopped Z from referring
this-
to it as a dog.
I will concede that it is a cheetah named Fighter Dog. Okay, that's its name, guys. It's named Fire Dog. That's its nickname. You have to really know it to know that. You just need a better relationship.
I have a question for you. So I know you've picked out the commons, you picked out the rares.
Mhm.
What kind of uniques would you fit into this deck then? Like what
That's
kind
where
of abilities
it-
are you looking for?
It actually does get quite interesting because, like, the uniques in this game can shape a deck. But let's say I don't want to redesign this because, like, if I had 3 of those Shinlong-ish creatures, I would almost run this exact deck. And with me, I would probably flip out the Bravos Pathfinders with Sharones because they can boost something else to potentially hit your guy, right? But that might be the only thing I would change and then just search for that type of unique. But if I just wanted to really, really double down on what this deck is really good at, the main thing that would be the most valuable would be pump that is not named Aja, like mana ramp that is not named Aja. That would be a really, really good thing. Like I was like basically I lost the Mighty Jin here in this lineup, right? Like it doesn't exist in what I'm using. If I got 3 Mighty Jins that had a maximum mana cost of no matter where they're from of 4, that had the I can ramp and draw if I don't leave. Like it would have to literally be identical to the rare. That would be the perfect addition at unique to this deck. Like if I could literally just take 3 Mighty Jins that did exactly what the rare does, it would be amazing in here. I think that would be the biggest unique that I think I could legitimately find in the wild for like not a lot of money. Like that is where I would go with the way it is built up right now. There are some insane things out there though. So if I was like talking about super insane wants, it would just basically be anything that is super cheap that just draws cards. Like if I could get a 2 or a 3 that drew a card on an arrow, that would be literally the perfect card for this deck. As is.
How well would the deck look different if it was a Basira? And why do you think that Basira isn't really competitive right now?
Just the way that creature control works right now is because no matter what, you're generally hitting the same numbers with either hero. Just with Kojo, you are doing it with one more character every other turn than you are with Basira. You are literally feeling the one less character in play every other turn of the game for almost identical net stats across the course of the same game.
Yeah, if you
And-
think about Basira, it's basically a not as good Aphanis.
way
but
worse.
the way I've been running Basira is with a whole bunch of seasoned dudes, and you keep replaying them with helping hands.
Yeah, but as you just mentioned, like I think my level of control is fine, but you said it was light. If I'm running, if you're saying there's most decks have more than this, they are already by your own like suggestion way better at crushing Basira than this deck than a Kojo. Because other than one card in this whole damn game, control spells just hit one thing, unless they are running Kraken's Wrath. Or whatever it's called, Wrath of the Kraken.
There's another 7-cost one too that
No,
lets
no
you
one,
draw a
no
card
one,
and
no
hit
one
you.
runs that, but people actually do run the Kraken thing.
Yeah, people run Kraken's Wrath.
Yeah, so there's only 2 factions that can even run that. One of them does not run it, so it's really just Izmir. Izmir is the only one that is more effective against the Kojo than the Basira, and everyone else is just great against Basira based on the way they design their control from Go.
So, what did you learn? I mean, we obviously know kind of where the meta is headed. How did it stack up meta-wise? Is this something that just hasn't been discovered yet because the game is so new? Or do you feel like it's still not quite stacking?
I mean, from my 9-1 experience recently, I know that's actually a really small and somewhat inconsequential data set because I don't know. Like I did beat some people I knew that were in events in that set. I bet I beat a pretty good Fen that's been placing pretty well in some of the locals recent. Like my last game, I thought I was going to lose when I paired with them. I was like, well, I'm about to get crushed. I was like, nope, I took it. Like I play all of these top decks. I felt really good about this. I think I said this about a couple decks. If Robin Hood wasn't a bureaucrat, I think I would actually be pretty comfortable with running it as a potential candidate going into a big event.
I think we'll talk about it a little later, but Kojo hit 9th in the first big tournament in the US. So, I mean, 9th isn't terrible when you're going up against twice as many Warus and Fens as Kojos.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think some of my gameplay improved with Kojo a lot over time. There was one match where I drew Intimidate, and I guess this goes to like what you're saying, Dexter, about like the number of control. You have to be very purposeful for when you use the control that you have with this build. The build is meant to be aggressive on the board and use its control only when it's absolutely necessary, but you do need to know when you actually have to have it. But there's one game I paired up against Sophonis. I recognized the name of the player, so I knew I was I'm in a battle here. In my first 6 cards, it was like a bunch of dudes and 1 intimidation. I chose to take a less optimal start of that game and held the intimidation from turn 1 all the way till the end of the game, where I was able to intimidate 2 of his dudes off of the board and then double push for the win. Whereas if I had not held those, both of them, like the one card I had at the beginning and the one that I got later, I would have been not able to get one of the lanes, and then we would have both been like next to each other. And then I know he had small step. There's just guaranteed that they have it. They draw too many cards not to have it. So had I not done the hold from the start of the game, I would have lost that game. Because I play Aphanis a lot myself, so I know their weakness. Their weakness is at the end of this game, they are going to land a dude. They're going to make him hit 12/12 by casting a billion spells, potentially on both sides, which is what he did because he played 2 category and whatever. And they were both like one was a 7s all the way down, one was a 8s all the way down, and I intimidated both of them straight off the board. To close that out. So like I think playing a lot of heroes has helped like just get better with like the ones you have, but you definitely need to hold the tools that you have for when they actually matter.
All right, if you want more deck construction tips, I think this is a good time to pimp our Patreon. You guys can head over to patreon.com/Altered Corner. Maybe posting some articles, some more audio stuff over there. As Z wants to, we can post some more stuff over there. This is the kind of stuff he'll be going through for all the other factions.
Yeah, I think we're gonna do one more like this, which I'll do a poll here in the week in the Discord to see which one you all want to hear, and then the other 4 factions. This is going to take a little longer as far as the casting goes. Are going to be in the Patreon for those that have it. You also have some other cool features, and if we get enough Patrons, we're going to do a bi-monthly. I don't know if that's the right way to say that. Whatever it means, every other month.
Bi-monthly
Tournament for people, and they can win a box once we get up to, I think I put 32 people in there. So if we're going to get up to 32 every other month, we'll throw you a invite-only tournament, and the winner will get their own display of retail Altered.
Alrighty, let's head over to Meta Lions with Zach. He's going to tell you all about Robin Hood and why he should be banned.
No, I don't think that's what he's coming at you with.
Oh,
No, no. It's the question is when to play Robin Hood. That's what I'm going to talk about.
When to ban Robin Hood. Got it.
No. Not this time. Maybe that'll be another future week's meta talk.
That's next week.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, so this week last week we talked about Bountiful Metal and Ordis Attorney starting off with War Rune Mac as the first turn. So now we're going to talk into day 2 or beyond. Ideally, you when to play Robin Hood. And the shorter answer is always, right? You always want to play Robin Hood. But when exactly do you want to play it? And there's a couple different scenarios that I'll talk with Lee about and that I've come across in my own play. Ideally, turn 2, day 2, you're on the play, meaning that it is going to be your turn. You're playing the card first, right? You're going to drop your Robin Hood. That would potentially mess up your opponent's, relatively what they had figured out that they were going to be playing. And then they also kind of assume that too, right? If it's day 2, 4 mana turn, Waru, you have to be concerned that they're going to have Robin Hood, especially on the play, because it's going to make all their cards cost 1 more. And I'm talking about the rare Robin Hood here. There are some other intricacies to this that I've come across, as far as even if you're not on the play. So day 3, day 4, day 5, depending on your opponent, right? And again, this is what we've been kind of mentioning throughout the cast this time, is knowing your opponent, knowing what your opponent is bringing to the table, knowing what they need and all that. The other day I was playing against a traced deck, turbo traced, and they played, I think it was a 6 or 7 mana turn, I don't really recall, but they played a 1 cost card that first turn, and I had Robin in my hand. I immediately took the turn to play Robin to make the rest of their turn that much more expensive, right? And it did win me that day. I did end up losing the game because the trace, I only saw the 1 Robin, and by the end of the turn, the opponent had drawn more cards than I did as a War Room Mag player, which was baffling to me. It was very, very concerning. I think he ended up having 12 cards left in his deck, and I had 14. So we went through a lot of cards. So back to Robin. Ideally, you do want to put it on the play, right? That is the most opportune to play it, because then it taxes your whole opponent's turn. You're going to put it to sleep. There's other potential ways to keep Robin Hood asleep and on the board. I already talked about Trace. Aphanis is another one, right? Or even if someone is playing as a Keisha, right? The After You effect. Not likely going to see that, but that's what you want to see, right? They pass it over to you, and there you go. Taxes aplenty. Aphanis, we've talked about. They're looking to play a billion spells. They're looking to play very cheap cards to undercut everything. Robin is going to make it more expensive, which again, even off the play, could make things more expensive. That's what I found in my experience. I don't know if any of you guys have any differing thoughts on that, but that is kind of where I'm thinking about when to play Robin, ideally in a turn.
My thoughts are never ever play Robin. I am willing to give away all of my Ordis cards to whoever wants them.
Goodness.
Aphanis is an interesting matchup, I think, when you're talking about the meta line of playing Robin Hood, because you're not guaranteed to see more, right?
No.
Kind of like what I was talking about, literally it's the same matchup. I was facing Aphanis, and Aphanis's power is their in game. Again, their in game is actually shorter than most other players because they just need to get to next to each other. Every Izmir player from now to the end of time is going to have at least 1 small step in their deck, probably 2. Some crazies out there even have 3, especially Akishas, because they do the thing, the gimmick. But as far as the Robin Hood play, against a Faunus, I don't know. Like your scenario was like, if it's day 1, they're going first. Day 2, you're on the play first with 4 mana. I don't actually know if it is correct to drop Robin Hood at that time, because the idea, it's like a exponential value curve that exists in a Faunus. Like, they are going to get to, like, every turn they're building their little engine that they do to spell sling. And their turn 2 isn't that remarkable in almost all cases, even with the crazy uniques that they have, and there are some. They don't actually do that much turn 2, because they return a spell, they draw some cards, that's what their uniques can do. And playing your Robin Hood doesn't actually slow that down in a measurable way. So I think if I'm second to act and I start the game with Robin Hood, the time you play it is your day 4.
Mm.
Even if you started the game with it. I think that is the answer as far as like meta play.
Yeah, I could see that, especially
Because
like you
by
said, like
day
that's
4,
yeah,
that means you have 2 more days to draw your second one in addition. And even if you don't,
you still have that pocket one.
well, my point is, like, let's say you, in the scenario that you don't draw your second Robin Hood. Oh yeah, because you have the pocket one, but they could probably deal with that some kind of way. If you don't draw your second one, that means they would have gotten all of their turn 3, turn 4 value. Well, they would have gotten all of their turn 5 and turn 6 value without assuming they didn't answer it or whatever. No matter what, I think playing it on turn 4, it either forces them to like basically skip that turn by addressing it with like a banish, because off you go won't work. So generally they're coming at you with banish, and that means they're skipping their turn 4, which is a better slot for you to skip, because you could at least play another bureaucrat that costs 2 that same turn and not be forced into a turn where you don't have a bureaucrat.
Mm-hmm. You
So
know, I think the day 2 is it again. It's always dependent on the opponent, right? Like,
yeah,
it's
but I think that
if,
might be the only hero where I would do that, because not all the other heroes like ramp at that specific time.
yeah, because they're going to be building throughout.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah,
Because if it's Trace, you definitely play it turn 2, because that actually stops them from hitting
yeah.
their exponential curve.
Which again, in that game against Traced, I saw the Robin relatively late. I think it was like day
Yeah,
3 or 4,
yeah.
and by that point, it was already 2 Havens
Yeah.
out and game over. Like,
Against
it was
Trace, you
rough.
need Robin as early as you can
Oh yeah,
possibly play him.
yep.
Against the Flunus, I think day 4 is the drop time, and if you're off cycle or whatever, day 5, right? Like, I think that's where you're at as far as playing against them, and I know this so well because I play a Flunus and I want it to be so good, and I feel every one of these losses in a personal way, and my
Is it
uniques
usually
suck. So
is it
it's
usually
sad.
Robin Hood that's causing the problems?
Actually, no. Like, I generally, they don't do this. There are people that if they'd done this to me, they would have auto beat me. So that's cool. Everyone knows that now. Just stop saying these things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Most of the time right now, I think my biggest issue with a Faunus is when I run into other speed decks like Turbo. Like, if Turbo lands their Bastion on turn 1 or turn 2, like, that is very hard for me to deal with. Because even if I banish and gate that's 4 for 2. Like, that sucks. like it's a hard pill to and you have to do it. Like, I have to play Banishing Gate on it, because the value is too high for that card.
So, are you going to be covering why I suck at Keyforge next week? That you give away your secrets of how to beat Big Z?
What's Keyforge?
Oh my God, I did it!
You did it again.
I'm done. I'm
I
done.
heard about that.
I'm
That game. Once upon a
it is
time.
so ingrained.
What
Yeah.
are some counters to Robin Hood? Like, we
You
talked
punch your
about
opponent in the
Waru, we
face.
talked about Fen. Like, how do maybe that's a subject for next week. What's the counter meta right now looking at? What are the decks we're trying to get around this? There's got to be a way.
The
Right?
I was gonna
counter
say-
to Robin is everyone email Equinox and
No,
ask them to
no,
remove the
no.
word bureaucrat from
No.
Robin.
There's got to be
No,
more to it.
in
than that.
play, I would say the biggest workaround is for at least that I've seen is sabotage. Right, you wait for him to go to the reserve and you try to burn it as quickly as you can. That is typically how my Robins have gone away before I could get maximum value out of them.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
one of the other better ways is cloth cocoon, but
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
so expensive. So the decks that usually,
That's at least 4 for 4. A lot of people are paying more than 4.
yeah. So, because I mean, if you're against a Waru, they're going to sleep the Robin.
Yep.
Or if it comes from reserve, it's going to be fleeting. Or if for some wild reason it gets anchored, it's a prime target for a cloth cocoon.
No, absolutely. That's a
Yeah,
big.
if you're
that's a big
playing
removal.
Lyra or Muna, you better have 3 cloth cocoons in your deck. Spoiler alert for the future. Those will be on the superstar list because right now, Waru is king, and there is no better card to have in your deck than cloth cocoon. Whether it's Robin Hood or not, like it will kill the sleeper, and if you can get them to start a turn without a bureaucrat, that's about as best you can hope for against those decks, as long as possible. As far as that goes.
I was just wondering
Yep.
who's again. We can cover this on a different day because I was like, who's the king of removal right now? Like, what? Who's got the most of it?
Ortis, which is Waru, and Siggy.
No, like technically Izmir has the most removal, but
I just feel
it's-
like I don't get
it's not-
removed as much by anyone but Ortis. Sticky note,
that's because
teamwork
of the
training.
builds right now. They're just running
Yeah.
to spell sling. You need to run 1s and 2s, and that is
Yeah.
not removal. But they do have more removal cards than any other house faction.
Yeah. I would say I wish that the next sections that we're gonna go over would show what takes down a Waru, but they just kind of reinforce that there is nothing that takes down a Waru yet.
Bad card draw. That's
Email
what's
Equinox.
been taking me down.
Remove Robin Hood from the bureaucracy.
Hand disruption? I don't know.
There's that. There's one card in the game that does that, and it is not good. It sucks, and it's even less useful against Waru because Waru draws better than any other faction. Sad.
Blue. Well, let's check into the marketplace. Z, what can I buy
All right,
a Kickstarter box for and a retail box for?
As we were going through the meta line, I did the Googles. I have it right here. I just searched this minutes ago. If you were in the market for a retail box, so no gold packs in that, but gives you lots of rares and some uniques, like $4.50 a box. Looks like you can get one for $84.99 still. That is a fantastic price. That is like 40% below MSRP. And that looks like Gamers Guild from Arizona. And if you scrolling around, I see some other prices for the retails. It looks like it's going from 85 that I just said up to 120. So that's where we're at. And then for the Kickstarter versions, which I feel like these have got to be running out soon. They're pretty much gone over in Europe. But here in the States, Gamers Guild still has the lowest price here too. They were at $210. They are now at $151.99. And you can get the God packs there. You could pack Pop Gold and get 10 uniques from one of those bad boy packs. $151.99 is a pretty good price.
That's real good. Yeah.
Might be buying me some Kickstarter.
Off their retail at $245. Like that's a good price.
Yeah, it's less than I spent on the one I was able to get.
No, it's So yeah, there is still really good prices on product right now. Europe is having a hell of a time getting stuff. People are like trying to get it shipped to them, which is a fortune and takes forever. So things are selling for 220 euros for Kickstarter over there. I have no idea about the retail, but I think it's probably like 140 euro. So it's quite a bit more over there where they are sold out. That's our marketplace.
Alrighty, Cole, tell me about They're In There.
They're in there. It's because there are a lot of events. So they are listed. For events, of course, first and foremost, I'm going to tell you to join the Discord because we keep them all nice and pinned in each metro for Texas. But of course, we do not want to leave those out that cannot make it to their store. And while we cannot give you adventure pass levels, we have a lot of good prizes going on in different online events. So we're going to dive into it a little deeper in some next section here, but we did finish Ace Tuesday recently. Luca still reigns the champion with Waru in first place, and a newcomer, Keelan Guy, in second place, also on Waru. Right after that, another online tournament, AWOL on Wednesdays. Keelan Guy took first with Waru, and second was Maddox with what do you guys think?
Waru.
Ben?
It, it was second place for Maddox, also playing
Oh.
Waru. So
Which
I
in
also
our event, literally the day before, it was the same match in the semifinals. It was Keelan versus Maddox, and Keelan won and went on to become second to Pluka. So they literally just had a rematch in the finals the very next day.
Yep. And I think in AWOL, Pluka tried a new deck out and did not make it in the top.
Was it not a
10.
Waru deck?
It is. It is a Water
Oh,
deck. It was just different. I don't know anything further than that. But Keelan Guy has some coverage of the events, I think, on his YouTube, so you can also look for that. I wanted to make sure and shout out any new events or organized play opportunities that are popping up in Texas. So, Printed Meeple in San Antonio has started a new weekly event. I believe Saturday is supposed to be the usual day. So, for more information, join our Discord or look for Printed Meeple in San Antonio. I did want to ask Dexter about Bedrock. We don't have a weekly setup yet, so no information on that, but you played in what kind of event last week at Bedrock?
So I think it was that last week? Might have been last week. They just did a draft there and a learn to play. So we had 8 people, I believe, and I think
nice.
3 or 4 of them had never even played the game before, so they got introduced to it. The people there like it. There is like a change of management at the store right now, so they're having to figure out what they're going to do with all organized play and stuff. But they should be doing a monthly event down there, whatever. It'll probably rotate between constructed and draft or sealed. I have no idea if they'll actually be able to get their hands on OP packs, though. We'll see.
Yeah, it shouldn't be too hard if they sign up for a store account and then it's just based on how much product they order for the store, as far as I know.
Yep.
So that is all of your local kind of more small events, but still lots of good prizing or opportunities for OP packs if you are able to play in person. And then since we last talked, there was the first big tournament in the US, which we will dive a little deeper into. We do have some analytics from our Ace tournament collected for 2 weeks now. While it's not any different than you would imagine, I feel like we are starting to see the meta slowly start to diversify a little bit. What do you guys think? am
I
I
mean,
just hopeful?
this pie's got a decent section of all of them. We're not gonna. Obviously, they can't see this, but like, Hero Breakdown, the highest percentage is 16% at Siggy, and Waro is 13%. And there's 2 others that are at 11 with Kojo and Finn. Like, that's That's pretty good. And then the rest are like 7%, 9%. Like there's a lot of variety in our event, which I'm super happy to see. We've had a lot of people play in the event. I don't know how many people we had Tuesday. I guess I could do this thing. No, not really, huh?
Yeah, we fill up every time and we cap it out at 64. It's
Yeah,
just
we had
no shows.
37 play last week, and then the week before that we had 38. So yeah, like that is, I think in total that's roughly, due to the number that weren't in the first one, like 45 unique players playing a pretty broad array of heroes. So we're seeing a lot of stuff enter. Yes, Waru has won both events, and even the top two of both events, but we are still seeing a lot of people entering with a lot of different heroes.
Did Zach
I'm
just
I'm
notice?
gonna win it with Kojo on Tuesday. Let's go,
All right.
Fire Dog.
Did someone just notice an error? Because I just watched the graph change as we're sitting here talking.
I did not change it.
Or did someone accidentally elbow the? Anyways,
No. Last week's data was a little bit skewed because of the filtering. I'll have to fix that.
Oh,
Come
okay.
come on, Data God.
That is not a self-proclaimed title. That was Cole that's calling me that. So
I like to see the hero breakdown now, and it's kind of evening out a little bit. The top 8 is still, very Ortis heavy. I've said for the past couple weeks, I think Traced is the dark horse. So I hope we see some really, really good decks in that area. If not Fen. Fen, has always been our obvious second place runner.
Kojo Tuesday. Let's go.
I mean, I believe it. We don't have the information for it here because it was, I think, 9th place. But at the Gamers Guild Arizona tournament, from what I've heard, there was a Kojo that hit 9th place. So I will just run really quickly through the breakdown of Gamers Guild Arizona as a whole. Then we can kind of see how we feel about that. So Waru had 13 players. 5 of those were in the top 8, and one of them was the winner, which goes out to Trickster. 10 were Fen. 3 of those made it into the top 8. So if you're doing math, the top 8 was 5 Waru and 3 Fen. There were 6 Kojo players, 6 Siggy, 6 Tasia, 3 Traced, 2 Subash, 1 Aphanis, 1 crazy person on Astadi, someone on Arjun for some reason, 1 gambler on Navenka, 1 Akesha, and 1 person who just likes to have fun on Arok, and then 1 Basira. And that is the breakdown of Gamers Guild Arizona.
Nice.
So how close was that to the 1024 that they had in France?
I was going to ask, do we want to dive into how limited that number is, or do we just want to go over the meta of it? Some
mean, it's
people thought it was a bad
Arizona.
sign,
Like,
yeah.
I think that right there, it's not easy to get to. Flights were not cheap, and no one
Mhm.
wants to go there. Sorry if you are from there.
Yeah, I think all of us are kind of on the same page where we don't see it as a bad sign and are like, oh no, the game is dead here. I think it's super easy to travel across countries in Europe. Their what's it called? Public transit is usually better, usually cheaper. And then yeah, like you said, Phoenix is not really a really big travel hub.
Well, the big thing is not a hub, right? So the tickets to get there, even for us, we're their neighbors. The flight would, and it is a flight that is really, really far from Houston, is not cheap. It's just not a cheap place to get to. It is not somewhere you're getting discount tickets. It's not Vegas. Like if this was Vegas, they probably would hit 128. Just
Yep.
because it's easy to get there. There's things to do. Other than that, if you suck out, like it's a thing. Like even Dallas probably would have hit high 80s or whatever because it's an international hub. It's regionally drivable by more people. Like that kind of thing could happen. Like I think we could probably hit 60 something here in Houston almost with just the people here.
I think
so-
if they were offering the same things
Oh,
that they
yeah.
were, and it was somewhere in Texas, one of the big metros. I think we could have filled it up.
sure.
This is semi-spoiler, but my plane ticket to get to PAX, which is in Philadelphia, was cheaper than it would have been to fly to Phoenix.
Yeah.
So it's just,
This is how tickets work. I mean, it just is.
yep, I am in the camp of it was just a product of where it was. And also the game's been out for a month and people seem to forget that very often, but those are the events. That is the meta breakdown of basically all of them. Next week, start seeing if the trend of shaking it up slowly but surely continues or not.
Well, I do think one of the most interesting things from the meta there was that we early on, I think maybe week one we said it, like the American meta almost pretty much goes. There's your top meta players, which is the bulk, and then there's the anti-meta, and then there's a bunch of people just having fun. So I think we kind of already starting to see this with the GG event. There were 13 Waru players, i.e., the top meta. There were 10 Fen players, i.e., the anti-meta, because a lot of people are using Fen with Festival and stuff like that to get around the way it works. And that was the top 8. 5 Waru, 3 Fen. There's your top 8. There's 6 Siggy players, which was tied for the second most. And I'm going to put that as the people that think Siggy's still the meta that are stuck back in the starter days. Sorry, guys. It's not happening. Things just aren't working out. Then you have Six Tasia. Those are the people that just like to have fun, even though they don't win games. Someone knows how that feels.
Yeah.
And then you got my boys, Six Kojo, and I just really want her to work. And who knows how well I'm actually going to do in reality on Tuesday. Bravos is really fun to play. So like that, I think is sadly in the Tasia boat with like we're just here to have fun. Because Tasia, like, I think Muna and Bravos are two really fun factions to engage with. It is really fun in Bravos to land big dudes and a giant red dog. In Tasia, it is really cool to have things sit on the board and casually grow over time. Like, those are fun and neat mechanics to see happen in play, especially on the rare games that you win. But
Yeah, I really like the thought games I have to play Tasia. While it doesn't always work out, a lot of the time I'm thinking, what can I put out there to start to scare them so they get rid of that? And then I put out my Hydra or,
Mhm.
an
Yeah.
Atlas or
you
something.
have to lure out the thing before you play what you really
Yeah.
want. Yeah.
And even though I think Afanis is a better Basira, I still like Basira a lot because I like Bravos and also awesome hero art. So
Yeah. The two things that actually surprised me legitimately on this list is that Trace and Afanis are so low. There were only 3 Trace. There's only one Afanis. Both of those heroes legitimately fire really hot, and they only really suffer against Waru. So for that to be only 1 and 3 is really weird to me. I think that could just literally be you're playing in the States, everyone's going to be playing Waru. I can't run these 2 heroes into Waru. And that's kind of where it feels like when you're playing them, especially Trace. Trace sucks hard versus Waru.
All right. Well, number 1, still a cat. And number 2, I think that's gonna do it for us this week.
Fire Dog.
Fire cat, kitty, fire cat.
Fire Dog.
God,
It's
whatever.
named Fire Dog.
By whom?
Me.
Well, yeah, but okay. You're just gonna keep calling it fire dog until we're all like, fine, Z.
That's its name.
Oh,
If
there
you
was-
don't know that, you don't know it very well.
Nah,
oh
you're
my
right.
gosh, there was one thing that I feel like I'm bad at remembering each week. I go in always being like, I need to mention this, and then when it comes to it, I forget it. Aegis, the event at Aegis this week, you guys are doing a draft, correct?
Yes,
Which
we
is
are.
in Houston.
Yep.
And also, shout out again to Aegis for providing prize support for the Ace Championship.
Yep.
And it's been great to see stores really engage well with Altered and
100%.
not make it an afterthought. And that's all I'll say.
Yeah, and as far as getting into the Ace Championship, every week, 2 people, whoever's first and second in the elimination event every Tuesday, you're in immediately. If you do well enough in the last 2 weeks, you could still earn enough points to make your way into that event, and it's free to play. Show up Tuesday, 6 p.m. Central Time in our server. Register. You can find the tournament. It's already public in BGA. Come on, play. You should play Wookiee 6 p.m. Tuesday.
Ogre as well.
Tuesday, I will be prepping for Worlds for Keyforge.
What? For what?
It's a little thing we do once a year. I prep. I have a spot, so I got to get ready. I'm playing Dexter's deck. That means anything.
You are using Lancelot?
I probably am.
Okay.
Maybe
Cool.
we'll see.
Good luck with that.
I'll be just fine. Thank you.
What a vote of confidence.
Yep, he is a real champ. Our very own Napoleon Dextermite.
When Ogre is listening to this, everyone tell Ogre we're rooting for him and very close to getting it on points. So sign up.
Zach
See you on
too.
Tuesday.
Yep, Zach too.
Zach, you too.
Man, I failed out last week, man. It was a rough showing. I need to put in a lot more practice for sure.
But with that being said, make sure you follow us on. Well, we have an X now, or a Twitter, for as us old fogies still call it. Cole, you're in charge of the Twitter?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's at altered.corner or just altered corner?
Just at Altered Corner. And while Twitter, because that's what I'm going to forever call it, is starting to slowly burn and die, I'll probably get around to making like a Blue Sky and an Instagram, yada yada. So we'll be everywhere in the next couple months, I'm sure.
Did you just say Blue Sky?
Yeah, I don't know what
Never
that
heard.
is.
Yeah.
That's why I'm the social media guy.
Dexter.
I'm a
Dexter,
kid and
have
I've
you heard
never
of Blue
heard of
Sky?
that in my life.
Oh boy, you've missed the young folk even too with that. So
Blue Sky. Oh yeah, look at this. Blue Sky. I don't know what this is. It is Twitter? I don't know what it is. But
that's fine. I think that wraps us up as
also
I'll
Patreon.
go Google Blue Sky.
Go sign up for the Patreon as well. That will be up within the next few days.
Yes, that will help us do some more fun things in the future. Lots of things to
for
come, we
all
hope.
your angry comments, please send them to altered.corner@gmail.com. Someone will get back to you. Never.
Or love notes. I'll read them. I will file them accordingly.
I do love hate comments. So
yes, I will send all of those to Cole, and he'll enjoy those, and I'll read the rest of them.
Alrighty. But with that being said, we'll see y'all next week.
Ahoy.
God damn it, Dexter.
I've never